first time I've used Microsoft PowerPoint in a long time, but I heard it has a live voice translation, so I think you can tell me after if it looks good or not. I'm Alex. I also go by the name Aventurine, and if you don't know what Aventurine is, I'll show you what that is on the next slide. But thank you all for being here. My presentation today is on model building for Numerai and beyond with the rise of personal AI agents. This is me. This here is Aventurine. It's a green quartz crystal that's similar in appearance to jade. And it's just like a nickname or alias that I came up with when I first started in Numerai, just to kind of keep myself anonymous in a way. And like jade, it's supposed to bring good luck and wealth. And I'm just waiting on the wealth part. I'm the founder of Aventurine Labs. It's a crypto native consulting company. I'm also in the Council of Elders, and there's a couple of us here. And as you know, the Council of Elders is here to essentially help push the Numerai community out into the public ecosystem. In some of my background, you can kind of see a lineage of photos of me over the different pivots in my life. But I started actually out of high school in the U.S. military. I spent about 8.5 years doing that. Eventually transitioned into the medical field, first as a medical laboratory scientist, and then later into field engineering. So I worked on clinical chemistry analyzers, and actually the machines that I worked on were built by Olympus here in Japan before they sold off their medical devices. So you can see me there in the middle with my lab coat on, and there's me now, the digital version of myself. I'm a long time participant in decentralized AI. I started with Numerai, and that's eventually transferred into doing this with Alora, with CrowdSent, with CrunchDAO, and I'm interested in any kind of platform that's running decentralized AI competitions. Also, I'm a photographer and digital art collector, and there's some of the socials here. And just so you know as well, I run the Council of Elders social media account, so all the photos and posts that you see come from there are from me. So this is going to be set up in 3 different stages or acts. The first part I'm going to be talking about is the agent itself, sort of how I personally set up my own personal agent. The next part will be the playbook, the prompt patterns that I use, the operating habits that I use around how I work with AI agents. And then in the end, I'll show you how I've worked that into these different decentralized AI platforms. And I had to kind of reference my previous job for this, but I feel like personal AI agents are the new lab assistants, I guess you can say, for the decentralized data scientists. Unlike ChatGPT, when you're just talking to it back and forth through the platform itself, an AI agent is not really a chatbot. It's more of a collaborator. It's something that has memory, and it has tools, and it lives locally within your PC setup. And the surface area has definitely exploded over the past couple of months. Numerai itself recently launched MCP and Skills. Numerai, Alora, CrowdSent, CrunchDAO. All of these competitions are running live in parallel. They might have different submission standards and times when you submit. But all of these things are all ongoing at the same time. When you have things like daily submission cadences across multiple platforms, it really causes a real operations burden. For somebody like me who actually doesn't have a traditional data science background, I only have a degree in finance, but this was like something that I don't have any professional skills in. I didn't work any jobs that were in tech that dealt in doing machine learning. So like a lot of this stuff I had to learn myself over the years. So I mean, for me, using AI agents as somebody who's not a professional at it has helped me learn and grow faster. And I mean, these frontier LLMs are good enough to scaffold, critique, and like sort of self-correct as you tell it what things it's doing right and what things it's doing wrong. And what's really nice is that these personal agents persist across weeks. Like humans don't really have the capacity to hold that much memory that's being stored over that time period. Now with just myself as one operator and one agent, I've been pretty much able to do now what like a team of people had to do like only a year and a half ago. And for those that don't know what a personal AI agent is, it's essentially a persistent tool that uses LLM that lives within your machine. It's your context, it's your data, and it follows your rules. So as you can see on the side here, it's not the same as a chatbot. It has memory storage, it has tools, it has its own identity and soul and rules that you tell it to live by. It has autonomy if you set up automation. It sort of does the work on its own, and because it's your machine and not on some cloud server, it's your machine, your data, your rules. And so this is how the pieces fit together for me. You have different sessions. I personally use OpenClaw. I know people use other tools, but you have your main session that breaks down into spawning research, spawning a build, spawning evaluation, and then spawning into operations. And then below that you got like things like cron jobs, things that wakes up, schedules that I set. I have reports that I have it send to my Telegram that I'm connected to it with, so that I can make sure that all of these different data science competitions that I'm participating in are actually doing what it's supposed to be doing, submitting on the right times, retraining, at set intervals that I might set, and you have your tools there. And these are those like markdown files that I mentioned. You have the sole markdown file, which is storing who you are, its tone, values, opinions, boundaries. You have your identity, which go by like the name, sort of the vibe that you want to give it. You can have an agent that you train to be like a little bit more fun and a little bit more interactive. You can have somebody that's more professional, more business-like. And I'm a fan of Lord of the Rings, so my agent's name is Gandalf because he's a wizard and can do anything. And memory is also very important. The way I set things up is every project that I do, I have it store everything in its own folder locally, in its own project folder. I do commits similar to what you would do on a GitHub, and I store memory files for each and every project that's stored for the long term. And I actually have a daily and a weekly backup, and at the end of every project that I work on, I push it to a private GitHub repo after stripping it of any kind of API keys or any kind of sensitive information. That way, like if something ever were to happen to my local machine, I have both a backup plus what's on GitHub as well. So you have that two different ways of having a backup. And your tools. This is like the API keys, the aliases, SSH hosts, all of that sort of good stuff. And for me, like I'm really crazy about security. I'm always very scared about putting any kind of like API keys or private keys online for anything that I do, even if I know it's in some sort of private
different agent for each project to work on? Because presumably they have different tools, different memory.
Well, what's nice with like OpenClaw is that you can store multiple API keys to different LLMs, but they all can share like in the same memory. So if I'm just having like a one-on-one conversation, I would just like start a new session, and I would choose a model that would, I guess for me, save myself on like token usage. Like if I'm just saying, hey, what's up? Like I wouldn't be using, like Opus for that. I'd want to use like GPT or Sonnet or something else. But if I'm doing something like very complex, some like deep thinking, I manually switch it between models.
Just to expand, I guess, on your question is, do you have like an edge per project, or there like a single edge and this single memory manages multiple projects?
It's I believe it's just one memory, but they're all like the projects themselves are all separated into like different repositories, like locally.
And memory is still shared across projects.
Yeah. And it's just like split. So like what I do is like every time I finish a project, I tell it to like store this to memory. So it has like a date and like which project I'm working on. So even though it's all one system, it still chunks it into different things. And like that's like one of the things that I try to be really careful about is like if I'm working on a project and then something else pops into my head like, like how do I make like chili in a pressure cooker? Like I'm not gonna, because I'm hungry or something, I'm not gonna be working on a machine learning project and then all of a sudden start asking it how to make chili. It's like, I try to keep everything to like one topic, and then anytime I'm switching to a new topic, I save that memory, I open a new session, and then I change the subject after that. And so essentially what the agent can do, you have your system calls like shell, you have your sessions. I mean, if you're doing like a super complex coding job, you can't spawn like a sub agent to do like just coding for you. And that way like you can still talk to one agent while you have like a sub agent that's in the background that might be doing a really complex coding session. Cron jobs, as I mentioned before, daily reports, and like for me, depending on what I'm working on, like I might be doing like retrains, like either weekly or monthly, just depending on the tournament. So I make sure that I have, these system schedules to like send me daily reports telling me that like things were submitted and like the whole pipeline is working. And of course you have web search and fetching, your docs, papers, like market data, all that good stuff. You have image vision, so you can generate, read charts, and do plotting and all that, and of course memory. And just a quick why local and persistent compounds. As I mentioned before, like generic chatbots can sometimes forget you between conversations. It's like very finicky. I think they've been getting better at that, where like now on Claude, for example, you can like tell it that you want it to like store memory, so it's a little bit better. And if you're using like the CLI, you can like actually split it up into its own projects. But I think for me, like I'm all for like local training, and some of these models are have such large data sets and require like so much compute power that like these are things that you like can't just do on a web-based server. Like I need to have like my RTX and like have it running those models locally, so it just makes sense for me to keep everything local. So kind of going into the second act here, this is like some of the prompting that I do before working on any kind of specific project. So I'm always starting with a deep research before I write any kind of code. It's telling it like read the documents, read example scripts, look at GitHubs, scan forums, discussion posts, threads, looking at social posts. This is like sort of is all about, and then I tell it to like output a web page brief, and that way I can, once it downloads the data set, I can see like the data shape, I can see like some of the scoring, I can see pretty much everything about the project before I have it write one line of code. And I mean, this is just for me so that I can see that it knows what it's looking at is correct. And from that, you can start building past that. So Numerai Classic is a little bit easier because this is something that you can just go directly to the Numerai website and download that data for. But for something like Allura, Numerai Signals, different competitions where you might have to bring your own data sets and build your own data sets on top of that. This is sort of my way of sourcing data and like building those custom data sets. So Numerai Signals, for example, is me telling it that I needed to build its own equity data set, finding 5 sources of free or low cost like stock data. I know I just put US in there, but I haven't like scoured the internet for also like international stocks as well. And while it's doing that research, it's able to like pull all that data, start building its own data set, and start splitting that up into features. And from that, you can start to build that model and start getting those diagnostics. So that's like starting to build those unique feature groups, and then doing a lot of experiments, blending different targets together, weighting different combos of targets, doing some feature selection. For the kind of data that we work with Numerai, with like financial data, typically gradient boosted trees, things like GBM and XGBoost, like histogradient boosting with like bespoke tuning seems to do very well with this type of data. But in something like Numerai, where you have to do you're graded on your uniqueness as well. That's where that feature engineering comes in. So, with all of that, once you start to work those these like data sets and you get to the end of your model building, you can start to look at those diagnostics as well. And this is kind of like a pull and play. Like the agent is not doing every single thing for you. For me, like I have enough knowledge that I know what I need to tell it to do certain things, but time-wise to build an entire pipeline manually with code, like this is where the agent can come in and take something that would have taken me months to do into a couple of days. So doing things like giving it a choice around like which models to use depending on the shape and the data set sizes, feature direction when it's looking at like the feature sets, giving it a little bit of like leeway when it comes to evaluating metrics. I mean, I have found personally that when I have it write like research papers, it sort of sometimes cherry picks things to make things look better than it really is. So it's like one of those things you have to be careful about. Like a lot of times, at least what I found, I don't know if it's like the same for everybody else, but like the AI always wants you to win, and it doesn't want to make you feel bad. So a lot of times when you're telling it to do something, like it won't be straight up with you a lot of times, and it'll sort of manipulate things to make things look better than they actually are. And I mean, I'll give you like a little example of that later. I don't think I put it on here, but yeah, I'll give you like a little example. And so that's where this like comes into play, where like the trust is earned and not assumed. And so this is like both, as a human being able to like reevaluate what it's doing, plus those rules. With Numerai, for example, you can actually have an API key that controls between models. So I give it explicit commands to like never stake anything without explicit consent, never deleting models or accounts without consent, never pushing anything to GitHub or into any platform without consent. Asking me before doing anything external, and really having that like human in the loop on submission. Like I want to make sure 100% that like before it pushes anything live, that like I have time to sit back and review what exactly it's doing. And so these are like some of the patterns that can catch some agents' mistakes sometimes, and this is where this comes into play where I was talking about how the agent will sort of manipulate things to make you want to win. So it's always a good idea before doing it to do like dry runs and making sure that like everything is working correctly. It's like cheap to test locally, but it's hard to go back and like fix things once it's already pushed. So you want to be able to like have your stage published, your state files, and like your watchdog set up that it's like checking the pipeline and making sure that like any process that you have is alive and that the work is like actually happening the way that it's supposed to be happening. In this last part here, I'll just go over some of the competitions that I'm actively participating in, and this is with my agent's help. Numerai Classic, we've already talked about what this was a little bit earlier, but one of the things that we built together, talking about myself and my agent, is an entire pipeline to submit models to the tournament. And I left this chart on here to make it like a little bit easier to see. I have like 10 or so models that I'm submitting, but I wanted to like visually show you just these two specific models because the one that's in red is my like personal model, which I call Aventurine on Numerai, and this is like something that I like hand built like 5-6 years ago, and I mean it still works today, but as you can see, the second model, which was the very first model that I used an AI agent to help me build, is that blue line on top. So you can see that even myself going up against an agent, that the agent seems to be doing it's not even good English, better than me, than myself alone. Some of the tips and tricks there, like I mentioned, selecting unique feature groups, error-aware CV, and neutralizing predictions and all that good stuff. And I have about 9 other models that was built using a different mix of like feature selection. Here's Numerai signals. I bunched these all together. This was fully built by myself in AI. Like I didn't write any line of code myself. I just told the agent what I wanted to search for, what to research, what to build, how to build a model, and then it told me what it thought would be a good way to find signal that other people might not have looked at. And I know this chart's pretty hard to see, but I mean the middle of that chart is 0. Cumulatively, it's actually moving like in a positive direction. This is like a by-round submission. So for somebody that had no models submitting on signals before to submitting 10 models that are constantly working on a daily basis, and to have something that's working that well is actually pretty amazing. Then there's Numerai Crypto and CrowdScent Loop. This is like a full crypto data science loop. Downloading the live data, generating features, predicting models, submitting, and having that like report. It's my Telegram. I'm submitting on both Numerai Crypto and CrowdScent, which are very similar is Alora, and I know we talked about Alora a little bit. This is an interesting one because I do have 4 workers that are essentially working across 4 different topics. But one of the things that I did before actually submitting those workers to start pushing was I wanted my agent to essentially give me like a professional research paper on the start of creating a trading bot all the way to like live trading. And so with that, after building the data set, doing everything, I actually have a local paper trading account that I started just with like a Python script, and I just focused it on Solana, the token Solana, because that was like one of the stronger tokens that it was telling me that my win rate on was pretty high. And I know it's a little bit hard to see, I can't even see it on the screen here, but let me actually just blow it up. Let me blow it up? No. Anyway, it's doing very well. But the weird thing is on research paper, when it came to the metrics, it was telling me that I had like a Sharpe ratio of like 4.3, which like if you're in finance, that sort of like already shoots off a bunch of red flags of like being overfit. You know, you want to kind of be a lot of times in like a sweet spot of like, you know, between like 1 and 3, but like once you start pushing like 4 or 5 and above, you know, you start to like think about possible overfitting issues. But it's been running for about 60 days, and the Sharpe is actually at 2 right now, and pretty stable. And like annualized returns are looking to be like somewhere in the realm of like 100% a year for returns. So I mean, I feel like in 2 months it might be time to maybe like try to like live trade this a little bit, but I think I'll just let it go and do its thing, and maybe add in some other tokens as well. But with this trading policy network in place, essentially, whenever I want to, I can push this to any kind of decentralized exchange to do live trade on, because the policy network chooses when to go long and short. Yeah, and like CrowdSet, again, the only thing like I'll add here to what I didn't mention before is that if you have like a full pipeline of CrowdSet models, there's like 6 different, or is it 5? I think that actually is 5 models. And it's doing very well too there. I think out of like the 100 or so participants, I'm like in the top 20, like somewhere around 15 over the past couple of months since January. And again, this was like all through just working with my AI agent to like learn about the tournament. And there's actually a really good article in the CrowdSet documentation that talks about using data sets from multiple sources to create your own pipeline. So I actually trained my agent on that document as well. Lastly is CrunchDAO. And this is a little bit different because this isn't just like a finance or like time series problem. Like Yodel and some other platform, more traditional platforms like Kaggle or whatnot, if you're familiar with that. This is a lot of different data science problems. And these are like the crunches that I've worked on so far, things from like working on broad obesity, trying to like predicting like RNA analysis, to like structural breaks in time series data, to probabilistic price forecasting for crypto and stocks, to open-ended research competitions. I mean, it's like amazing that you can just tell your agent to look at a specific task, and it's able to go through the entire post from Nimrod that there's like hundreds of people now that are pinging their like MCP server. I'm seeing a lot of posting on social media about agent, research agents, and like ops agents, and everybody talking about using agents for whatever problems they're trying to solve, and that's about it. So here's my socials. If you're not, I don't care, don't follow me. I don't care if you follow me or not. But if you're not following the Numerai Council of Elders account, definitely scan that code and make sure you're following us. We're like the community team that essentially put these meetups together, and we like to do things that benefit the community. So yes.
Speaking of benefiting the community, do you have any public repos, or can you share any of your private repos and whenever LLMs have to recreate?
What I could do is I'm down to actually send you the research paper that I wrote. Well, I wrote. My agent wrote. That's funny. Like, did I write it or did the agent write it? If I tell it to you, like, is it like 50-50? Like, I don't know where that lands, but I'll send you like the research paper. It's like 15 or 16 pages long, and it starts from like pulling data all the way to creating like a policy network, like neural net for like live training.
That would be helpful, thank you.
Yeah. I'm a quant now, pretty much. Any other questions? How was the translation? Was this working? Was anybody even reading this?
Is that good?
Good.
It's good?
Yes.
Like how good? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how good is the translation been? 8?
8 or 9.
Damn. Surprising.
One practical question. So you said you have everything running locally on your local.
Yeah.
And how do you deal with the multiple processes running at the same time? Do you have like a 10 GPUs cluster or?
That's actually a good question. Well, I mean, I always have like one thing going at the same time, but I didn't follow the trend of the Mac Minis. I think like a lot of people just like bought whatever the basic like Mac Mini was, and that was it. But I mean, I'm a data scientist. Like I'm running models with data sets that are like millions and millions of rows. So my whole system is actually on Linux.
Yeah, but I mean, like, how do you share resources? For example, if you were to train multiple models at the same time for different projects.
I don't do that. No, I mean, I like to just focus on. I know it's possible to do what you're saying, but like, I don't know. I don't want any kind of like possibility of anything crossing over or like taking resources from something else. Like whatever I'm like working on a problem, I just like only have it doing one thing at a time. Plus, I don't think my machine can handle running multiple models at the same time anyway. But I mean, you can like spawn cell agents, but I mean, everything is still ran locally. So I mean, when some of these models are running, like it's the CPU and the GPU are running. I just realized that my translation isn't going anymore. My like CPU is like going crazy, just doing that. Am I in like the right spot? Or are you?
Yeah, because like I found that it's difficult to share, especially when you work on multiple projects that are like GPU hungry, especially if you happen to use Claude, not Claude. Claude is like a gun standard. If it sees another process in GPU, just kills it. It doesn't care what it's running with.
Yeah. Okay, well that's good to know. I assumed that that's what was going to happen, so that's why I never even tried.
Yeah,
because I assumed that like the stuff that I was going to be doing was going to be so like compute heavy, like doing it locally, that like it didn't make sense for me to try to run any kind of like parallel processes at the same time.
So you have like a local orchestration that is running some sort of like training remotely, or
like if I'm doing it here.
Yeah.
Well, it's connected through Telegram. So I create a bot that connects to the OpenClaw, and then whenever I want it to do something like whole thing I did last night, like the layouts, everything in this presentation, this was done by my agent. Like I just told it what I wanted it to do, and I mean I still had to write like a paragraph of what I wanted, and sort of give it a layout of like how I wanted it to be. And I mean I think I only did 3 edits where I'm like, oh this slide I don't care about that, put this in instead, and like it'll just kind of refresh the slide and send it to me. But yeah, like 95% of this presentation was all done with my agent.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I just have a comment. Have you ever heard of Tailscale?
Yeah, no, it's not about probably not have a stage to come. That's not the problem. I guess it's about how you handle the multiple processes at the same time.
Yeah, I just don't do that.
It's resource contention because I found it either like I'm buying too much, I run too much on the vast DeAI and then just burning money, or doing something up and just.
Yeah, well, and that's where like the model selection goes in. Like if I'm doing like something like this, where I'm just doing like a slideshow that's like text-based, like I'm not going to use Opus to like run this. So I just spawn a new session and I use like Sonnet, and because it has access to the memory files, like it knows every project I've worked on, and it can access the text data. So and it's smart enough to make a PowerPoint presentation. So like the cost of building this might have been $5, but if I use Opus, it would have been like double that. Like it would have cost me like $10 in credits or something to like build this. But also like the prompting, you don't want to do like, hey, hello, what's up, Gandalf, to like the agent when it's running Opus, 4.7, because every single prompt, it's taking like compute and you're paying for that. So like when I put a prompt in there, the prompts are like paragraphs, or I actually talk into it and I transcribe what I want, like and like let it build its own like paragraph form prompt, and like every prompt I'm like making sure that I'm pinpointing exactly what I want it to do, so it's not wasting money.
Well, can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
We have time. So like when you are experimenting with different branching, different computations, different models, I found this very difficult to manage the flow because you got like multiple projects, multiple seeds you're trying to experiment with, each of the ideas producing more like varieties. How do you track what performs better? Like always, I have like 100, sometimes 1,000 versions generated.
Yeah, I split it up. So like a lot of times when you have like a little